ready to go for the first round of Modern here from the Magic Online Championship. Hello and welcome to coverage of the Magic Online Championship. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Eric Froelich, and we're just about underway here in round 4. Now, the players leading up to this have played Vintage. They're switching gears now, and they have unsleeved here their modern decks, as it were, and they are ready to do battle. So let us jump down to the feature match area here and get a look at our two players. You can see in the feature match area, Martin Dang from Denmark on your right, and Shintaro Isamura, from Japan on the left.
So yeah, both these players coming into this round at 1 and 2, definitely looking to right the ship, get back to even, put themselves right back in the hunt to make our top 4. That's where you want to be. You want to take the top prize. Let's go for the gold, and yeah, getting to 2 and 2 is a big first step.
Yeah, in these small field tournaments, it's a little different than we're used to at the big field tournaments like Grand Prix and Pro Tours, where you pick up too many losses early and you can kind of be out of contention, fairly early. But here, you're going to end up playing a lot of the same people multiple times, and you can fight your way back.
Yeah, there's almost as many rounds as there are players, so definitely some losses to give. No big concerns being 1 and 2, but every win is still important.
All right, so players are taking a look at their opening hands. You can see here Martin Dang on the bottom of your screen. We talked about the ability for this deck to fill up the graveyard to take advantage of delve spells, and you can see some of the ways that Martin can do that here. He's got a fetch land, a Thought Scour, and a Gitaxian Probe right off the bat, and even a little later into the game, Izzet Charm can be used to fill up the yard, and Electrolyze kind of does that just by casting spells and filling up the yard the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, Electrolyte's definitely on the more expensive side of things. This is a deck that plays 18 lands total,
wow.
And a lot of the spells, even though there are 6 and 7 drops, are effectively 1 mana spells. So Electrolyze is, I think, kind of a concession to various other Delver and Young Pyromancer strategies. Just a very effective card to get rid of those things, but not the easiest to cast at the 3 mana. It takes
There's only one.
Yeah. That's the thing, is he plays a lot of 1-ofs in the deck, and what that does, and the reason behind that, is a card like Thought Scour. It allows you to mill 2 cards off the top, put them into your graveyard, and you can leave them there. You can choose not to delve them, and you have 4 copies of Snapcaster Mage. So you can then flash back the 1 spell you actually need. So having 1 copy of Izzet Charm is kind of like having a couple copies, because it's easy to get into your graveyard from time to time through either casting it yourself or Thought Scouring it into your graveyard, and then Snapcaster Mage might bring it back later on.
All right, easy start here for Shintaro. He's just going to play a Hollow Fountain tapped and ship the turn back. Meanwhile, Martin Dang's going to crack his Scalding Tarn here and really get the graveyard rolling. He can fire off a Thought Scour here on end step and keep that, we call that velocity, where you're kind of getting through your deck, drawing cards, even if you're not necessarily up cards in the transaction. You just get to see a lot of the cards in your deck, and he's found a nice threat here with Young Pyromancer.
Yeah, but he did cast Gitaxian Probe, so he knows that Shintaro kept a 5-land hand that has 2 great answers. Timely Reinforcements, which actually won't be gaining Shintaro life anytime soon, as Martin's dealt 6 to himself already. Timely Enforcements, what that card does is a 3-mana sorcery where if you have less life than your opponent, gain 6 life. If you have fewer creatures than your opponent, put 3 1/1s into play. So should Shintaro take some damage, it's going to be hard to get low enough for Timely Reinforcements to gain 6, but it will put 3 1/1 creatures into play as he has fewer creatures than his opponent.
Right. Talisman of Progress for Shintaro means that he can even play Supreme Verdict here in the early stages of the game on turn 3, and that means that Martin Dang, since he knows about it, isn't going to be able to play his second copy of Young Pyromancer. He's just going to have to sit back on Electrolyze and Izzet Charm here for this turn.
I really like Shintaro's spot right now in this game. He's got a lot of good reactive spells. He's got Snapcaster to bring back the important one, and he's doing a great job of developing his mana.
All right, so like you mentioned before, Timely Reinforcements requires that you have lower life than your opponent to gain that 6, but he still gets the 3 soldiers either way, and that's pretty important here. Though it does look like Martin might eat a couple of them with the with an Electrolyze here.
Right, he's going to expend some of his resources to deal with these tokens, and all that really does is Shintaro just doesn't mind that. He's got Supreme Verdict in hand. That card can't be countered. Whenever he casts it, he knows it's going to resolve. And then he'll have Snapcaster Mage at the ready to either bring back the Verdict or Timely Reinforcements, or should he draw another spell that he wants later on. So a lot of good options for Shintaro. And Thirst for Knowledge is a great draw. He's a little bit flooded right now. Interesting decision to play the Flooded Strand over the Urza's Mine here. I would kind of be leaning towards discarding that if I drew, some good cards.
He's got another one in his hand already as well.
Right.
Huh. Yeah, he's got the tower down, the mine in hand. He decided not to play it. It means that he won't be able to have the 3 Tron pieces online next turn either way. He currently doesn't have anything to cast with them. But
right. There isn't a lot you can do with the Tron pieces. It's not like he's playing any copies of Emrakul or anything that he's going to get out anytime soon. I guess he could draw Iona, but he'd still need to draw the Tron piece and the Iona. Same thing with Ugin. So pretty far away from having enough lands to actually cast one of these relevant cards. And that's just kind of to give him a little bit more inevitability in the late game, not needing a lot of different colored sources and being able to actually hard cast an Elish Norn should he want to do that.
Yeah.
Or an Ugin, or be able to set up a lock with the Mindslaver and the Academy runes.
Yeah, it feels like he wants to sort of craft this game around that Supreme Verdict, and Martin's recognizing that. He fired off Izzet Charm there on end step. He actually discarded his other copy of Young Pyromancer, but he did find a Tasigur and a Gurmag Angler now with his draw step plus a Kolaghan's Command. So he is not short on threats here, but it looks like Kentaro's going to trade token for token, indicating that he's probably ready to fire off that Verdict, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because that does clear the way for the Young Pyromancer to start attacking, increasing the clock, so he's going to have to do something about that.
That was a great 3 cards to draw off Thirst for Knowledge. The map will find the final piece of the Tron puzzle, should he want that. The Gifts Ungiven will basically find him whatever he wants. The other option is, let's see, he can use the Expedition map. No, he's going to be a little bit shy of being able to actually use the map to get Academy Ruins, gifts for other Tron pieces, and Mindslaver, which will go to his graveyard and set up the full lock with gifts and Academy Ruins. The deck can do a lot of cool things by having a land that can bring artifacts back from your graveyard, and having expedition maps that will effectively search your library to go find them.
All right, so you see he's got the tower and the mine. The power plant is somewhere in his library waiting to be searched up by that map. And Ishimura is going to pass the turn back now. It looks like Martin's ready to fire off a Kolaghan's Command here.
Yeah, not sure exactly which modes he's looking for.
Can destroy an artifact with it, that's one.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a great target out there right now.
I mean, Talisman's pretty much as good as you're going to get as far as targets if you want to kill an artifact.
Yeah.
Discarding a card, not super powerful. 2 damage, certainly not super powerful.
Yeah, he's making him discard a card here.
Yep, discard a card and deal 2 damage.
So not super powerful there, but
nope.
He did get another token out of it on end step, which is going to allow him to attack for 4, dropping Shintaro down to 10.
So I imagine we're going to see an end phase gifts here, and I'm not sure exactly what Shintaro's strategy is going to be. He can gifts for value, and then wait to use the map to either get Academy Ruins or another piece of Tron, which will allow him to... Well, what he can do is get a bunch of expensive cards on Burial Rites if he wants. He can Snapcaster to Thirst for Knowledge to discard on Burial Rites to go to his hand. The Expedition map can go get the 3rd piece of the Tron puzzle to allow him to then hard cast an Elish Norn or an Ugin should he get that from a gifts. Or he can just get a 2-card pile and put on Burial Rites and like an Elish Norn in his graveyard. There's a lot of good options for Shintaro. He's kind of in the driver's seat here.
Yeah, he survived long enough to make this gifts thing an option, and once you get to that point in the game, that's the real strength of Gifts Ungiven is that flexibility, although it looks like he's actually going to crack the map here, Ifro.
Yeah, interesting.
So he's going to go get that power plant, which means that he does have the full Tron pieces. Those 3 lands are going to make 7 mana total now.
Like, Martin is definitely representing that he could have counter spells. He has Deprive in his deck. He's already seen Izzet Charm. Mana Leak is a common card. Remand is a common card. So lots of different things he could have here. Yeah. Well,
he's undeterred.
Mindslaver is coming down, and it is going to be sacked.
All right.
No reason not to.
So here we go. Mindslaver has just resolved. So now, go ahead.
He's going to force Martin to cast Snapcaster and Step, or else he can use Martin's Snapcaster to, get something out from his graveyard, kill another of his own creatures. And he's just basically forced to cast a Snapcaster that basically is not going to do much right now, just because it's going to get worse for him next turn.
Yeah, so now what we're seeing here is really cool. Shintaro is actually controlling Martin Dang's turn, so he's going to be able to, well, in this case, not attack. He's going to fire off the Gitaxian Probe and try to get as much info as he can, and he's even going to be able to run out potentially both of those threats so that he can Supreme Verdict them away. This could be a huge, huge swing here. This could just be the game winner for Shintaro.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to come back from this. If he can find, if he can find Lightning Bolt to just also bolt Martin's face with his own card, he's going to make him take 2 damage off his Blood Crypt.
This is so brutal.
He's going to delve away the entire graveyard, empty Martin's hand, not attack, hopefully.
Yeah, and he can cast both.
Yeah.
Right now there's 14 cards in the graveyard for Martin Dang, and so that means that both Gurmag Angler and Tasker can come down. Like you said, he's just going to skip the attack step, who needs it, and pass a turn back, and Ishimura is going to leave Martin Dang with no cards in hand and no creatures on the battlefield after that Supreme Verdict gets fired off. So, wow, Mindslaver really doing work here.
Yeah, fantastic draw.
Just completely wrecking Martin
was
Dang.
sandbagging those creatures, keeping them in his hand, knowing about the Supreme Verdict from an earlier Gitaxian Probe, and he kind of, Mindslaver's the perfect foil to his plan, forcing him to play the creatures out. They're all just going to go away. It's going to be tough to beat Ishimura from here. Ishimura.
All right, stage 1 is the Supreme Verdict here. He's also drawn a power plant, so he's got tons of mana available. Is he going to just go for a Gifts here? He's got a mana floating. He knows his opponent's top decking. All right, there it is. Gifts Ungiven. And this is how he's going to set up his victory. So we'll see what he ends up going for. But he's probably got multiple routes that he can take to finish off Martin, who is just decimated here. No non-land permanents, no cards in hand thanks to Mindslaver.
Yeah, I mean, he can, at this point, get all the value in the world that he wants. Any instance
I'm
or
not,
sorcery
not
he gets.
jealous.
Okay, so he's just going to go for Iona right now.
So he's got enough mana to just fire it off here.
Yep, the Iona is going to come down. It's going to end the game in exactly 1 hit.
Now I'm assuming that he would name black here. Is there another color that you would name?
Looks like he named blue.
Blue? What is it? I'm just curious what it is that he may be worried about there.
That's a good question.
It's hard to say. I was thinking black just because...
In theory, it could be like Cryptic Command.
Okay.
But that is not a card that these Delver decks actually play. So, I'm not sure.
Okay, interesting.
There weren't a lot of answers. If he named black, it would have cut off the 1 Murderous Cut, 1 Terminate. I'm not exactly sure it was in Martin's graveyard. It may have been he was trying to cut off Snapcaster Mage. Interesting.
Okay.
The interesting thing is, actually, Martin could have drawn Burst Lightning that turn, a 1-of in his deck that would have dealt the final 4 points of damage.
Wow.
That would have been interesting.
That would have been sweet.
Iona comes down and Burst Lightning off the top could have won this game,
man.
actually, for Martin. So he was not drawing dead.
So you're telling me that Martin got unlucky? Is that...
Martin got incredibly unlucky. I mean, the top deck Mindslaver was pretty brutal.
Mindslaver was not bad there.
Great
yeah,
card.
that was one of the better Mindslavers we've had on camera, and it's no fun when your opponent gets to control your turn for you. It's hard enough when you have to do it. When your opponent gets to do it, the decisions get a lot easier. You can see the 2 players sideboarding here as well.
Looks like Martin's looking at a couple copies of Blood Moon. Of course, that shuts down all these crazy non-basics in Shintaro's deck, turning off, the Urza's lands, Tron, as you were, and, he's got Celestial Colonnade, Academy Ruins, a bunch of sweet lands that Blood Moon really takes care of. Looks like some Shattering Sprees, which is not the most exciting, but can kind of mess with Shintaro's mana a little bit. It looked like Shintaro is bringing in Emrakul out of the sideboard.
I see that. He took out... Couldn't see everything that he took out.
Looked like he wasn't too interested in Iona.
Crucible of Worlds looks like it left.
Yeah, Iona is a tough one when you don't know what color to name. All three choices have a lot of merit against this deck, which probably means Iona is not necessarily the best choice in the world. And so, looks like he was looking for Emrakul.
All right, we're back underway here. Going into game 2.
We're going to need them to pop out those graveyards so we can see the hands.
All right, so Martin Deng knows the drill here. He doesn't figure there's going to be any targets for a lightning bolt other than Shintaro, so he just fires it off on the first turn. Lightning bolt
to
your
keep it
face.
in his deck. I wonder if he just didn't have enough cards to take out. This is not necessarily a matchup you're going to prepare too much for.
Yeah, again, the deck that Shintaro's playing, not popular right now in Modern. It's a deck that has really fallen off. There were times when it kind of peaked up again. There's also a red-green version of this Tron deck that you'll see pop up from time to time, but this blue one has not seen significant play in a while.
Yeah, the Tron deck kind of had its time in the spotlight as a great foil to Birthing Pod decks because they didn't have a lot of good answers for this incredible mana, being able to cast these big spells, the Eldrazi's or the Karns or the Ugins, what have you. And so they would give you enough time to set these things up, and then the Tron decks could take advantage of that. Now that Birthing Pod is removed from Modern, Tron has struggled quite a bit. There aren't a lot of great options. There aren't a lot of great matchups, as I mentioned earlier, and it's not seen as much play.
So while we were discussing that, Martin Deng played Tassiger only to have it Celestial Purged away there by Shintaro. So now
Celestial Purge is a great answer to these quote unquote overpriced, I guess, delve creatures.
Sure, yeah, and right now neither player has much of a threat going. Here's Kolagon's command.
He's going to use that to discard a card and deal 2. I'm not sure that's going to be worth a negate from Shintaro. I think he's just going to discard an excess plains that he has.
Yeah, he does. Here's a Gitaxian Probe to give Martin Deng an idea of what Shintaro's working with and also get a few more cards going in that graveyard. He still needs one more in there if he's going to cast a Gurmag Angler.
No, he needs a bunch more.
He needs multiples, doesn't he?
The Tassiger took care of the graveyard.
Tassiger was gone, yeah.
And didn't even find the graveyard itself, Celestial Purge exiling.
He's going to need 2 more before he gets to cast the Angler.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, he found a threat in Delver of Secrets.
Remand's a pretty great answer to something like Gurmag Angler.
Oh, yeah. All right, here's Path to Exile, though, for Shintaro, and he can fire this off on end step.
Yeah, it does help Martin develop his mana.
Yeah. You know what? It looks like Shintaro decided against it. He had it clicked. He was going to go for it, and he decided not to.
He's still at 15 life. The Delver hasn't even flipped yet. I think I agree with his decision to wait. Okay, if he sees something that he doesn't want Martin to draw, maybe an answer to the path or anything along those lines that ends up flipping the Delver into an Insectile Aberration, he can certainly then cast his Path to Exile.
Which is happening right now. You also see that he's done this on the upkeep.
Can we see what actually got revealed to Delver?
No, it's not. It would be right here.
It's interesting. What this does is, if your opponent shows you a great card that flipped Delver, especially something that might counter Path to Exile, by casting the Path to Exile, if your opponent goes and gets the land, it will shuffle that card away. So, a very heads-up play by Shintaro if Martin revealed a card that he didn't want to face. By casting the Path to Exile, he'll force him to then shuffle that away if he actually wants to go get it. And it looks like that card was a Deprive.
Yeah, it was a Deprive. It fit that exact description. It looks like Thirst for Knowledge for Shintaro. He's going to fire this thing off while Martin's tapped out. He knows about the Deprive in Martin's hand.
Just another redundant copy of the Urza's Lands.
And did he discard the Mindslaver there? Yeah.
He definitely wants to keep 2 lands, and he's pretty far away from actually being able to use the Mindslaver, and nor is it necessarily going to be great in this game. If he's able to find the power plant, that sets up Ugin. Second copy of Ugin. Definitely not what he wanted to draw.
I mean, the first one's going to get deprived either way, right?
It's very likely. I mean, if he's able to find the power plant, he has a bunch of remands, so he can actually force the Ugin through. But this clock is quick. I mean, Bolt's coming down. Snapcaster Bolt is another possibility, and the Insect is going to keep coming in, so Shintaro does not have much time. He's forced to just blow a remand basically as a cycle here. Martin's just going to fire off the Lightning Bolt again. Unburial Rites is probably the worst draw on the deck. So this remand will actually stick the Bolt back in Martin's hand, but if he's able to draw any mana source, he's going to be able to attack for 3, Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt, when Shintaro only has colorless mana up.
All right, there's a Tassiger of the Golden Fang. He can actually cast that if he'd like, though he doesn't have a strong incentive to do so. As the Bolt,
he's just leaving up Bolt Deprive, and
yeah,
you know, this game is over. We're gonna see a game 3.
All right, Shintaro's going to pass the turn back, and Martin's once again going to pick a fight on the end step, and that is going to do it. So evens things up, does Martin Dang, and that means that we are going to get to see Game 3 against these two players as they go back to their sideboard plan here.
I think that game really helped highlight one of the fatal flaws of this Tron deck, that you're forced to play a bunch of lands that don't do anything really unless you have all 3 copies. You're playing a bunch of clunky cards where you draw Ugins and Burial Rites, and it really just took one Delver of Secrets, just kind of punished Shintaro. I mean, his start was good. He was able to force the Tasker out of there. He basically strangled the Gurmag Angler in Martin's hand, and the Delver of Secrets just won the game. A few Lightning Bolts to the face just finished things off, and it's just, all right, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and you were saying those Lightning Bolts aren't even, key cards post-board. They're kind of weak against him.
Yeah, they fill up the graveyard. They represent damage in combination with Snapcaster Mage, but they're certainly not powerful. I mean, it is just it's 3 damage to the face. It's a Lava Spike. It's not a card that you would choose to put in your deck very often, but it's still going to be enough fairly often. I mean, a card like Kolagon's Command we saw there is also not super exciting.
No, we haven't really seen Martin do much with the Kolagon's commands. It's just been kind of you discard 1 and take a couple of damage.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm surprised he doesn't have Dispel and all his Delve cards in his deck, but he's still choosing to keep one of the Dispels in the sideboard. I think Dispel is pretty good in this matchup. It's very Gifts Ungiven dependent. Being able to counter that for 1 mana is fantastic. You're also looking at a deck that has plays 4 Thirst for Knowledge and some counters of its own. I think Dispel is really good. I could be wrong.
All right, Martin Dang has what can be a typical opener for these low land decks. He's just got the 1 land, but look how much his stuff costs. 1 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop. It's pretty easy to get things moving forward, even on a low amount of lands. He does have a pair of Lightning Bolts, and now a Delver of Secrets is going to hit the battlefield. Looks like Shintaro's going to have to use a path if that thing's going to flip up at some point here. And I think Martin's going to be pretty happy about that to get more mana going.
Yeah, that is a good spot. That is a huge downside to Path to Exile.
Yeah.
And you see, Shintaro's hand just doesn't do anything. I mean, it's got some protection in Path to Exiles, which are nice to have, but you're also looking at an Ugin that he is 6 mana away from casting.
All right, so it does in fact flip up off of a Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah, that's a really good draw.
And that's going to let Martin Dang get a little look-see at what's going on with Shintaro, and Shintaro's going to respond by firing off that Path to Exile, but Martin's going to know that he's got another couple of those plus negate Ugin and an Urza's Mine in hand.
Yeah, this looks like definitely one of the games. Now that Delver's not in play and there's a couple Path to Exiles, these both look much more like the dead draws that we expect them to be. They deal 3 damage. That's all they do. They don't really represent a full card, I guess, is what it is. That they're not full mulligans. They do 3 damage, but 3 damage is not really something you want in this matchup unless you're pressuring your opponent, and they're representing, the end of their life total, where they're going to be close to 0. If your opponent's going to be at 19, they're just bad draws.
Right. All right, there's Tassiger the Golden Fang off the top for Martin.
A redundant Urza's Mine. Not helping the Ugin too much. All right, Pluto Delta's. I assume he scry to the top, give him some black mana.
Are we going to see a different mode on Kolagon's Command this time?
I don't know.
Wouldn't mind seeing it.
It's an interesting decision to fire off the Serum Visions before cracking Polluted Delta. I don't think I agree with that. I think I would want to crack the Polluted Delta, so that I can cast my Tasigur, and yeah, now he's basically throwing away his scry, which is a pretty big loss.
All right, so are we going to see Tasigur the Golden Fang here? Right now, he knows that Shintaro's got another pair of Path to Exiles in hand. Does he just want to run it into it?
Yeah.
Not much he can do anyway, right?
No, I mean, you're getting another land out of your deck. I assume he has more basics. Yeah, he has one more island in his deck. I'm not sure I agree with the decision, actually, to get a basic swamp there, because his deck only has 2 islands and a swamp for basic lands, and he knows there's 2 copies of Path to Exile in hand. So on that turn, I would have gotten a Blood Crypt or a Watery Grave, so that I had more basic lands in my deck to be able to fetch out with these Path to Exiles that you know are going to be cast. So I think that was a small error as well. The life total is just not a big deal in this matchup. You're basically able to go down to virtually 1. I mean, you want to keep some life so they can't just kill you with Ugin, but
the
being able
difference
to deploy all
between
your
20
threats
and 14 just isn't that big against this.
Between 14 and 12 at the very least is just not worth it. Well, one step closer to deploying an Ugin, as he has found any Tron piece he wants.
Yeah, he still needs 2 more to make the
right, but he can keep
trifecta.
the map in play and just wait to draw one of them. So he has 7 outs to hit full Tron as opposed to let's say 3 or 4.
Sure. All right, now it's interesting. Remember, this is a 1-lander for Martin, and now he's actually just drawn too many lands at some point here. He's sitting on 5. He's got 1 more in his hand.
Yeah, he has been pathed twice, so
yeah,
he hasn't drawn all those lands, but yeah,
sure.
He was kind of forced to scry land to the top with his first Serum Visions because he needed a black source. Which it's possible he should have gotten a black source with the first Path to Exile.
Right.
He actually got an island when he had Steam Vents in play. I'm not sure if that was correct. I think that you're usually going to get an island in that spot. His hand had Serum Visions and Snapcaster made, so it makes a lot of sense to get an island. But it's possible he wanted to consider getting a swamp there.
All right, so here's Kolagon's command, and it was in fact not a different mode here, as his graveyard's been hit pretty hard by that Tasigur. So it's just discard a card in 2, and it looks like Shintaro's deciding if he wants to negate this, he could save himself 2 life by playing the negate, but it would lock up his mana.
The real question is whether if you're considering discarding the negate, you should absolutely negate.
Right.
I don't believe that Shintaro knows about the Spell Snare, so he is kind of going to quote-unquote get got here by Spell Snare. No, it looks like he's just discarding the Ugin. Alright, that makes perfect sense.
He's pretty far off from being able to cast that anyway.
Yes and no. I mean, he has a 7 outer, so 1 out of 7 chance of drawing a Tron piece, which will allow him to play that and then use the map to get the final piece.
So, would you rather keep your?
I think
Ugin in hand?
I think I would have negated that and kept the Ugin. I'm not sure how he plans to win this game.
Yeah, that's kind of the question I had. Was if he's going to discard the Ugin, now he's got to find the Tron piece that's missing so that he can search up the other and a threat as well. Meanwhile,
I'm not sure about just firing off Bolt there. Oh, this is huge.
This is going to be huge. So Blood Moon's going to hit the stack. It's going to get negated. That's going to get spell snared. And at the end of this, Martin Dang's going to have a Blood Moon in play against a Tron opponent with no basic lands, maybe 1 here.
I think this was another minor misstep in tapping the swamp. I think that he probably wanted to cast Tasigur this turn. I guess it's not a big deal, though. No, I guess next turn he can probably cast Tasigur and be able to activate it once. Okay, so I take that back. Wait, he didn't even cast Negate?
Wow.
Interesting.
He did go get an island with his Floodstrap, but yeah, he just didn't even bother fighting that fight.
I'm not sure I disagree with that, actually. I think that might be fine. It's going to make it tough, though. It seems hard to not at least try to negate that.
Shintaro's got 6 lands on the battlefield currently, and no major threat going.
Well, he doesn't have very many threats in his deck, period.
Right.
And it just became a lot harder to actually deploy them.
Yeah, another interesting interaction that we've seen here. So In this case, Shintaro's going to fire a Spell Snare on Snapcaster, but he's got the unburial rights in his hand. He doesn't have a way currently to get it in the yard.
Right.
We keep seeing Martin firing off these Kolaghan's command, making his opponent discard, and that could end pretty badly for him if it's, sure, I'll discard my, Iona or whatever.
So he's going to cast Tasigur. It's going to get Path, but he's going to get an activation out of Tasigur. He's going to tap 2 of his non-basics for red and leave up blue, blue, red, red. So he will get 1 activation out of Tasigur, so he'll get a free spell out of that, which is nice. I mean, he may delve an additional card. I don't know exactly what's in his graveyard. If there's another card he just doesn't want to get back with Tasigur that he's not looking to hit.
If Martin gets a... Let's see. We can take a look at his graveyard here. So his graveyard is Bolt, Kolaghan's Command, Bolt, Snapcaster. He'd love to get a threat going.
Yeah, I think he just wants to keep the Snapcaster in there. Okay, he agrees. Yeah, Snapcaster is just a 2/1 flash, an ambush viper, if you will, is actually a threat.
Strictly
this
worse.
Path to Exile is not. This Path to Exile is not going to be able to get a land, though. There are no more basics in Martin's deck.
None left.
Fail to find.
All right, so there's that Tasigur activation. Let's take a look at what he hits here. Right now he's left himself just a Snapcaster Mage, and another one and a Dispel is going to join. So it looks like he'll get a Dispel.
I agree with that. Well, he's not going to have a threat in play.
All right, so Tasigur gets Path. He doesn't get to find a land off of it. Where does this game go from here? Is this a top deck war where, we're just looking for threats for either player, or what are we looking at here?
Yeah, effectively.
We're in game 3 here of Shintaro Ishimura versus Martin Dang.
Ooh, Serum Visions is good.
Speaking of top deck wars, yeah, when you find your Serum Visions, that's going to help you find action and quickly.
This is going to get negated.
And it gets the Blood Moon resolves. Serum Visions gets no surd, but that's going to get spell snared right back. And here we go. Snapcaster Mage is the card drawn off of Serum Visions.
Fantastic.
That's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Martin's deciding what he wants to do with the other 2 cards from Scry.
It's going to be tough. There's so many dead cards in Ishimura's deck right now. I mean, everything double white just can't be cast. I don't think he has any way to get rid of the Blood Moon. He does have some artifact mana in his deck. There are Azorius Signets, and there's 1 Talisman of Progress that we've seen. So he does have ways to produce an additional white mana, but he's got cards like Wrath of God and Supreme Verdict and Iona and Elish Norn, and of course the Unburial Rights already in his hand. Just a bunch of dead draws. Again, highlighting the weakness of the Tron deck, some of the problems it actually has. I mean, Shintaro's basically forced to use Dispels and Remands to stop flashback copies of Snapcaster Mage. Flashback copies of the cards that Snapcaster Mage gives flashback. So it's just a bad spot.
Yeah, this is a bad spot. Shintaro declined to play his land the last couple of turns. This is going to be a Snapcaster Mage, though, on his end step for Martin Dang, who's going to get back, presumably, that Lightning Bolt and keep that clock as fast as possible here.
Interestingly, if he had held on to the Ugin, he could have cast the Ugin.
Yeah.
And it would have resolved through Spell Snare and Dispeller are not good answers.
And there's a Remand that's trying to hit the Lightning Bolt, which would send it into exile permanently, but Spell Snare's going to take care of that, and we're on a 1-turn clock here.
We are. For
Ishimura. And he doesn't find what he needs. He finds another reactive spell, gives a little bit of a smile there, and has to concede to our Pro Tour champion, current reigning Pro Tour champion, in fact, Martin Dang. So congratulations to Martin for picking up that. Remember, both of those players are sitting at 1 and 2 in the tournament, so they really need to get the ball rolling here, and Martin's done a good job of at least starting to right the ship there.
Yeah, didn't do all that much, but it was enough. Snapcaster Mage is a good card.
Yeah.
Blood Moon kind of shut things down. His permission is super cheap. I'm looking at Spell Snares into spells costing 1 mana. He kind of flooded out a little bit. He ended the game with 7 lands in play. He's only playing 18 total, including a bunch of fetch lands, which he used to get some of these lands. And It was enough.
Yeah, it was just enough. All right, let's send it over to the red zone. And Brian David Marshall, he's got some more red-hot red zone action for us.
Thanks, guys. Actually, I've got some green and white action for you. Hall of Famer Ole Rade is playing against fellow Pro Tour champion, Del Moral Leon. And we're going to pick this game up on Del Moral Leon's turn 3. Ole Rade is up a game here. So this is after sideboarding. And let's see how this goes. A Spellskite has just come down. Of course, Del Moral Leon is playing Splinter Twin. This is the deck he won the Pro Tour with. So that Spellskite, kind of a pain in the toughness for him there. So Roast takes down the Spellskite, plays a land, and then turn 3 for Rade, he goes. He's got the 2 elves, plays another Spellskite, gets in for a little damage. Oh, it doesn't even get in for damage. He plays an Elvish Visionary. So he starts building out his board using his mana elves. And we see the collected company was met with Dispel. And a Pestermite came down for Del Moral Leon. But he's not going to be able to do anything with that Pestermite unless he deals with the Spellskite. He's just, if he can't put Splinter Twin on it. He's tapping 5 mana, but it's not for Kiki Jiki. It's for Keranos, God of Storms. And Pestermite starts to whittle away Ole's life total here. Now it's Rade's turn again. It's turn 5. Taps some mana. Plays Collected Company. Hits an Elvish Visionary. Draw some cards. I think he also hit a Nettle Sentinel this turn. No, he hit an Elvish Visionary and a Nettle Sentinel. So now he gets in for 1 and plays Llanowar Elves. And now it's Keranos. Keranos reveals a Lightning Bolt. So he gets to do 3 damage to the Spellskite. And then Lightning Bolts the Spellskite, which seems very bad here for Rade. But he has a response, starts tapping his creatures to play Chord of Calling for 1. What's he going to get? How about Burrington Forge Tender out of the sideboard?
Whoa.
No way.
Protection from red on the Spellskite. It's taken 3 damage, but it doesn't take that fatal 4th point of damage. And he frustrates the Pro Tour Champion's plans here. And, by the way, has, developed quite the board here of little elves. So now it's time for Ole to go to his attack step. And at beginning of combat, a Deceiver Exarch comes out, and it taps down a Nettle Sentinel. We move that turret over to the Spellskite. And we get some attackers. So he starts Deceiver, jumps in the way of an elf and eats it. But we have a Thrun the Last Troll. For Ula, plays another elf. Keranos God of Storms, doesn't give him a way to kill Spellskite this turn. Whittles away with the Pestermite. So, Ula's down to 9 here.
So is Antonio.
So is Antonio, yeah, exactly. And there's almost that many attackers in play. So we get another Pestermite. This one tapping a Nettle Sentinel. But it's time for another Chord of Calling from Ule. What's he going to get this time? How about Elvish Archdruid?
Instant speed overrun?
Instant speed overrun, as Eric said. Yep. So, gets in with all his elves here. And his Thrun, by the way. Deceiver Exarch steps in the way. And Del Moral Leon is at 1. He untaps. And plays a Tectonic Edge. And then he says, I got to go for it. I'll try the Splinter Twin, but that Spellskite that's been sitting there the whole game gets activated and picks up the thing, and that is the game. Ole Rade wins 2-0 in this match. Great, just collected company and quarter calling. The quarter callings look terrific. Burrington Forge tendered the big win. So there you go. Elves. Who knew?
That was sweet. We saw kind of a different angle from the Elves deck there, being able to search things up at instant speed and really kind of throw some curveballs.
That Burrington Forge.
That was out of nowhere.
Burlington Coat Factory.
All right.
That was amazing.
All right. So it turns out that Kenji is ready for a sideline interview. Let's send it down to him right now.
Hello, friends. Kenji Igashiro back again, this time with the one and only Pro Tour Hall of Famer Ole Rade. Now, Ole, you're probably the most well-versed in Vintage out of all the players here. Were you generally happy with your 2-1 result?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, I was hoping for 3-0, obviously, but I mean, if you're the known Vintage player going in, you always have the pressure on you. So, yeah, I'm happy with 2-1.
Yeah, well, you just came off a win here in round 4, which was Modern, and you're playing against Modern Pro Tour winner Antonio Del Moral Leon. So he was playing probably Splinter Twin, I would imagine.
Yeah, he was in his Pro Tour winning decks, Splinter Twin, as I also expected.
Now, let's talk about your deck. We just saw it in the red zone. It is pretty awesome. Explain it for us, and what does it do?
Yeah, it's a mono green elf deck, splash and white, but it's a turn 4, turn 3 combo deck where it just explodes creatures out and wins with overrun with Azuri.
Now, are you like overly scared of Anger the Gods or anything like that? Is that a problem for the deck?
Sweepers are a big problem, yeah. That's why we're splashing the Birthon in the sideboard.
Gotcha. And how did you beat the Splinter Twin deck? Because you said that was a bad matchup for you.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I got Spellskite in the first game with a Fauna Shaman, which is really, really good game 1, Spellskite. And then game 2, I got both of my Spellskites out. And I mean, his draw wasn't spectacular. He mauled the first game, and then the second game, he curved like a Pestermite into Keranos and not much else. And my chords could protect my guys.
So is there any other deck that you're not looking forward to face maybe in the next 2 rounds here for Modern?
Not really. I mean, it's hard to tell how the metagame is, but I mean, the elf deck has good shot against everything, I think.
Yeah, it looked really sweet, especially with the Azuri overrunning effect and the regeneration even, right?
Yeah,
it just
it comes up too.
There's a lot of nice synergies and little interactions.
Yeah, it's a good deck. This is the Russian online grinder who's been playing it a lot lately. A friend of Dmitry Budakov, actually, who won this a few years ago. So I've talked to him this week, and he's gave me some good advice with the deck.
Well, thanks for taking the time to answering some questions. For Ole Rade, this is Kenji Igashiro, sending it back to the booth.
And welcome back to the booth here. Always insightful words from Ole Rade, even though I couldn't hear any of them.
Yeah, I assumed they were great.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
How could
too.
they not be?
So
That's a
interesting.